Welcome to Devolution, a show to empower, enlighten, and entertain divas and those that love us. Here's your host, Deb St.Hilaire.
Hi, and you know what? It's 7 o'clock and it's light outside. Oh, that just warms my heart. And so spring is getting closer every single day, even though there's snow out there right now. The roads are dry, but the sidewalks aren't. So be careful and just think spring. Keep thinking spring. It's almost here. And hang in there. So welcome to the Devolution Show. It's almost St. Patty's Day. Lots of stuff going on. And almost every woman that I know is a working woman. And many are working mothers or working fur mothers and are very busy. And that's why I'm so happy to have a returning guest that I enjoy so much with us this evening. Lisa Montanaro, welcome.
Good evening, or actually, it's still afternoon here in California. But it's so good to be with you again.
Thank you. Boy, have you been busy.
Well, we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I don't like to really use that term, but I have been happily scheduled and booked up. How's
yes,
that?
I like it. Giving speeches. So, you know, one of the things that I admire so much about you is that you could have done just about anything that you wanted to do. You've been in plays, musicals, you've been a lawyer, you lived in New York, and you chose to be an entrepreneur.
You know what's so funny about that? And thank you, by the way. I appreciate that compliment. I don't know if I could have been anything, maybe not a skydiver because I'm afraid of heights, but I appreciate the compliment. I don't, looking back now, it's so easy to say, of course I chose to be an entrepreneur. But when I was a lawyer and I was looking for what to do, I did what a lot of people do. I was thinking of the technician side, like, what am I good at? And how can I help people? And so I wasn't consciously thinking, I need to go start a business. And what are some good businesses to start? And then studying like the business markets. And a lot of us don't do that, especially women. We tend to follow the technician side, which is, I'm good at this, let me turn it from a hobby into a business. And so I had already been career coaching, and I was always organizing and planning. And so I started looking at those types of careers. And I was a natural speaker since I was a little girl from acting. And so I threw it all into this business, you know, and my husband laughed at the time. My first business, I was trying to name it. And he's like, how about Montanaro Inc.? We plan lives. And of course, thank God I didn't name it that. But I take credit for consciously saying, I'm going to become an entrepreneur. It was an afterthought. And yet what's really neat is that I wound up loving running a business and being really good at it and then teaching others. So it wound up being this wonderful blessing, but I admit that I kind of fell into it, as many of us do, through the back door.
Right. And how long were you an attorney?
So I practiced law for 9.5 years, mostly in New York City, and then for a few years in Michigan while my husband was going to graduate school. And I did employment, labor, education. And, you know, I'm very typical of many lawyers, love the law, like revere it and I should have known there was something wrong with me, Deborah, because I loved law school, which is actually rare. So I loved studying it, thinking about it, writing about it, researching it. I just couldn't stand the way it's practiced because my whole brand is, you know, overflow, like the glass isn't just half full, it's over brimming. And law is all about finding like the negative to try to, you know, fight about it and fix it. And it just was such a disconnect with my personality. And a day or two, I gave it a good 9.5 years. And that's when I started looking around, and very typical of New Yorkers. I left right after 9/11. So it was such a reminder to all of us of how short and precious life is. And I used to have a view of the Twin Towers. At the time, I was the Associate General Counsel for Pace University. And there's no better reminder than looking out that window and no longer seeing those towers and knowing what that stood for. And so I was like, it's time to take my talents and skills and focus on them elsewhere.
Right. Yes, and I'm glad you did. My best friend from high school kind of went through the same thing as you, so I understand. And she too loved the whole theory of law and what it stood for, and didn't like the practice. And she is an environmental attorney now, so it's different. And she's okay with that. But
good for her.
Yes,
I'm glad she stayed. We need good lawyers to stay. If we all defect, then there's not a lot of good ones left. So I have many friends from law school that are still practicing law and that are very happy doing it. So I'm glad to hear that she found her niche within the law, which is nice. Yes,
thank you. So what I wanted to talk about with tonight is as full as your schedule is, you have a husband that is out of grad school now and is a practicing veterinarian, right?
Yeah.
And you know what's funny? My friend Kathy was married to a veterinarian as well. My friend that was the attorney.
Cool.
Yeah, that's kind of funny, isn't it? I just now thought of that. So, and you travel and you two go on some really fun vacations. How do you manage to fit all that in?
Well, I will start all of this by being completely transparent, which is I do not have children. And so my hat gets tipped to all the parents out there, because when you are running a business, or, whether you're an employee or an entrepreneur, but if you're running a business or a career and also trying to focus on your personal life, and you also are taking care of the next generation, that's more than I need to handle. I have 2 crazy rescue dogs, but the bottom line is if I need to, I could put them in a crate. Whereas if I put a kid in a crate, we have a serious problem.
That's frowned upon, yes.
So I am very honest about that with my clients. Having said that, all of the principles of activity, life, work balance are the same regardless of what's on your plate. So we all have this plate, it's like a big pie, and we all slice it up differently. And I can go over like the 5 different areas of how we slice it, because that may be helpful. And so some people's slice might have a big slice on there called parenting, and I don't happen to have that. My husband and I have been married 20 years in July, and we are child-free by choice. So that was a conscious decision that we both made. We both really like kids, but we really like them for other people, if that makes sense. So that alone makes things easier in some ways on me in terms of travel, because when I'm out of the house, I'm coordinating all the things going on in the house, obviously, for my furry babies, but not the same as children. So I always want to let people know that, because they're like, how do you do what you do? Who takes care of your kids? I'm like, I don't have them. And they're like, oh, okay. What's interesting, Deborah, some people then dismiss it. They're like, oh, well, that's how you do everything. I'm like, well, no, I'm still using all the principles and I'm teaching my clients.
Right.
So I do practice what I preach. I just took one slice away from my pie. And granted, it's a big slice.
But not as big as if you wouldn't have dogs. I mean, that's a big responsibility. You have to walk dogs, feed dogs, take them to the vet, to groom them, brush them.
They're dependent on you. So, So, but I realize it's not exactly the same, and I don't try to compare them. Although my best friend, who's one of the best mamas I know, special needs son, daughter, and she's one of the best mothers out there that I know. And she always compares her kids to my dogs. And so we always laugh, because I'm like, well, you're doing it, not me. And she's like, can I borrow the crate? We laugh. You gotta laugh.
That is funny. Right? You do, yes. Yes, I agree.
So I do love traveling. I travel about, depending on the year, I'm trying not to travel as much, because now that my husband is done with his residency, I have more time with him, and that's wonderful. But like between January and July, or January and June, I'll travel about a week a month for business. Wow. And then the other weeks I'm back at home. And then usually July and August, I'm doing more personal travel, and I'm having friends and family visit me here. And then in the fall, my speaking schedule starts again. So from about September to November, or September to December, I'll be gone about a week or 2 a month. So it's not for everyone. I like it. I like traveling. I like, going to other places. I work well on the road. I kind of run my business from a mobile virtual standpoint. And like you said, I have a husband, thank God, who is okay with it. So it works out well.
Who is busy himself with his own career. So, yes.
Right.
And it helps also that you've been together for so long. You kind of adjust to each other's schedules after that long. Right?
You do, or you don't, and you fight about it. And so thankfully, we are the former and not the latter. He knows I'm very independent. He's pretty independent also. We like to say that we want each other and we, love each other, but we don't necessarily need each other. I know that may sound awfully strange to some people, but it works for us that we both enjoy our individual businesses and careers and lives, and we really love to be together. But we're not up each other's butts 24 hours a day, which is good.
Right. Yes. And that makes it hard when one is like that and one isn't. So it's really good that you guys found each other. And I know that one of your main priorities is family, because I know you spend time with your niece. I see pictures all the time of you with her.
What's interesting is people say that, and yet I only see her a few times a year because I'm now in California and she's in New York. But when I do go to New York, I want to see my niece and nephew. And we've started this funny thing since, she is going to be sweet 16 this month. Wow.
Aww.
And so from about 11 years old until now, she's been coming to visit me for anywhere from 1 to 2 weeks every summer.
Nice.
And we call it the Lisa and Angel summer camp, and we just have a blast. We go rock climbing and bike riding and, swimming and dog walking. And, so I'm very blessed to have a great niece. My nephew's, he's 20 now. He hasn't been out here yet because he was, in high school and he was always busy, and now he's working. But when I go home, I try to see him also.
Very good.
I have great family. They're all back in New York, except I don't know if you knew, my biological father is actually out in Los Angeles. So that's a pretty awesome bonus of me now being on the West Coast.
I have seen pictures of you with him as well. So we're going to be talking about balance and how, when I look at young people's lives today, mothers that are just starting their careers, who have young children, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah. Well, I think that let's talk about a few different things. One is the pie chart that I was talking about. Some of my clients, we break it up into like 7 or 8, but there are 5 main areas. And I think what happens is we spend so much time, many of us, working, thinking about work, focusing on work, and just waking hours. People are working if they're out of the house or if they're running a business. And there's such a common misconception. People think when you're an entrepreneur, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, people are like, oh, it's so nice, so-and-so, started her own business. She's going to have so much more time on her hands. And then all of us that own businesses look at each other and laugh.
What?
Because we know that often means you'll be working at 10:30 at night or, 5 in the morning. Some of my clients are trying to fit in things. And sometimes because you love what you do, you don't notice the time. You don't bill the time the way you do, like, at a time clock. And so you tend to work more, a lot of entrepreneurs. Don't you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. And even before I did this, I was in real estate and I had to work when other people weren't. So I did my paperwork and stuff while everybody else did their normal jobs, and then showed houses when people weren't working. So I worked 80, 90 hours a week.
That's such a good point. One of my clients that I was coaching with earlier today is an interior designer. And she was saying she has to have 2 nights a week in order to meet with clients because they have to be home. And a lot of them are working outside the house. So in order to have a partner, a husband and wife, they need to sit there and go through swatches with her and fabrics. And so it's the same thing. So she often works weeknights when other people aren't working.
Right.
But let's quickly look at this pie. So there's your work, there's your relationships, which would be family, children, friends, your health and fitness, your community or spirituality. And then I think the 5th one would be what I call personal interests, hobbies, passions. Now, some people break down the relationships into like romance and then parenting and then, friends and family.